because that's just the most, like, the most
Oh, okay.
updated. I printed those out today because some people were making payments.
Okay, all right,
That's just the most recent.
all right. So we got, all right, that's good. Thank you, honey.
You're welcome. And then one is just this year, and one goes all the way back to when the website started.
Oh, wow. Huh. Did you ever go to the plays at the MIT?
I'm not.
You should. The one Frankenstein's very good.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Deb and I went last Thursday. Especially if you go when they have their dress rehearsal before they officially start. $5 to get in.
Really?
Yeah.
Probably
Five.
just as good, right?
Yeah, you don't know if they screw up their lines.
Right.
You know, you don't know. And because she's works for Middlesex, we get 50% off. So
Nice.
yeah,
That's
so-
really cool.
and there isn't a bad seat in the place. Yeah, it's nice. Huh. I guess the Lowell, the Pirates haven't paid. It's interesting.
If I remember correctly, when she was here, she even said that money's no problem. At the meeting, she said that right at the meeting, that money's no problem. My question on this, Peter, these, the ones way back in 2017 and,
Well, do you want to call the meeting to order so we
Oh.
can start, or do you guys want to just?
Well, nah. City of Lowell Board of Parks, Wednesday, November 20th, 2024. Bring this meeting to order. Currently have 3 board members present, along with Secretary and Peter. Okay, we have items for agenda. We got discussion of Parks Handbook, and we got discussion of outstanding permit fees. Are we being recorded?
yes.
Okay, thank you. What is your pleasure? Permit fees, Thomas?
Yeah, we'll go over the permit fees first, we'll get rid
Okay.
of it, we'll discuss
All
that.
right. We have 2 copies here. Okay, the yellow one is most recent, Heather?
The yellow one is this year, just from January to now.
Oh, just this year, okay. And the green one is all encompassing.
Yep, ever since we started taking payments online.
Oh, okay, all right. This year, we have an outstanding balance of... We have a total? Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't see it. $8,065 is for just this year, 2024. And the total outstanding since we started taking payments online is $17,415. With some of these going back to 2017.
17.
17, 18, 19. Okay. A lot of small amounts, 150, 170. We do have some
50.
larger amounts, which would be, the Pirates are going by page 1. The Pirates 1650 is basically current, 62724. Eaton,
Yeah, that's Ronnie Eaton, that's the baseball league, we've never had problems with him before.
So, from my understanding, Shannon said that he never showed up to the field, he never used the permit. But we also haven't heard from him.
Right.
okay. All right.
Can I ask one question about, when there's if anybody puts in for a permit, and we have to hire a custodian, how do we know that people actually show up? Doesn't that custodian, does he have that individual sign off on anything saying that they were there, or?
I don't believe so, but that would be something Shannon would be able to answer for you, because the guys who work the facilities, the men and women who are out there for the permits, all work for the Parks Department, so that would be a Shannon question.
Kinda. Because I know, like, in other towns, when yeah, I'll use Drake for an example, if somebody uses the football field, and they have to hire a custodian, for that custodian to get paid, that individual who is renting that field has to sign a piece of paper stating that that individual did show up to get paid. I think that's something that we should do to make sure that, the people who is renting the parks or the pavilion are showing up. Is that something we have to discuss with Shannon, or do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, what I'd like to ask first on the back fees, what is the current procedure?
There's none.
What is the current procedure? And I've read the documents about how we do things, requesting a permit, reserving all this. But if we're going by what we're stating, how we're doing things, or how we're supposed to be doing orders, how do we get ourselves in the rear? In other words, before a person gets a permit, they pay for it. Then they use it. If they're not paying, they don't get a permit. So how are people getting a permit without paying for it, is my question.
They're not getting a permit until they pay for it, but there's no one there who's asking for a permit.
Peter, we can approve them for a permit, but then they,
So what happens is, once it's approved, Heather will do the permit the next day. Once she approves the permit, if there is a fee, the invoice gets emailed automatically to the person on record for the website who's on that account. When they get the invoice, they're supposed to log in, pay. Once they pay, they then receive an email with their permit, or they can log into their account and print their permit. But the problem we're running into is that, as far as I know, and I could be wrong, because again, I don't know what Shannon's people do, is that nobody is asking for permits on site for a user. So if somebody shows up with 40, 50 people to play at Cawley Stadium, there's no one there asking for a permit, and then the one person who's working isn't going to shut them down. There's 50 people there.
is there any suggestions of how can we prevent that from happening? I mean, is there some protocol we need to put in place that if
Well-
someone doesn't get on there, unless the person that we're hiring says, you're right, you're so-and-so, lead, you have your permit with you.
So what you guys just did with the new book is that the permits have to be paid 2 weeks after, is it 2 weeks before the event or 2 weeks after the meeting?
I think it's 2 weeks before the event.
2 weeks before the event. So then, if they don't pay, the permit gets canceled, but they still have the fee on their account, because that's what you guys didn't, there's no language in there to automatically waive the fee if they don't pay, or to decline the permit and then automatically credit their account for the fee. That wasn't discussed, so they would not have the permit, he would not have someone there to open the field for the permit unless it's paid, but the fee would still show on their account for you guys to deal with later.
Is there any way that we can either add another slot saying that permit was not used? That way, when we're looking at outstanding balance, I'm looking at, I'm sure Tom and most of the boards are looking at that, this person used the permit and didn't pay. And I think that's the way I think most of us perceiving it. And
Well, the problem is, if they don't pay and he doesn't have someone there, there's no way to know if they used it without the custodian being there, because most sites aren't locked down facilities. And even Cawley Stadium, if there's someone who paid for the turf and you have a permit to use Machado, they can still get in and go over to Machado because the building's unlocked. Unless, of course, there's something else that he has in place that I don't know about, but again, I can't speak for Shannon and what he has going on at Cawley Stadium. But if someone paid, if you guys charged a fee for, let's say, Wayland baseball field up on top of Gage, and someone didn't pay, there's nothing stopping them from using it. It's not a locked fence.
They go in there and use it, and nobody knows, and they
So-
pay.
Same thing for the Shed Park Pavilion. If the only thing they wouldn't have is bathrooms and electricity.
Right.
But people use it without getting permits all the time. You drive by there, you see it being used all the time, even when there's no permits out there.
But what I'm saying
Just
is,
like the picnic area up near the Pine Schools,
Right.
that's full every Sunday
Right.
and Saturday and the weekends, and nobody comes in for permits for those.
and I think my concern is in putting a procedure in place or some type of protocol is more of they're using a facility where they're hiring a custodian, because normally we're charging is for extended services. Not, in most cases, we're not charging, other than, let's say, even the pavilion. That's extended service, because in most cases when someone's renting that, it's on a weekend or a night or something like that, and where there's a custodian there. So I think in my recommendation, I'd like to have at least a custodian or the person there, give them some responsibility and say, are you so-and-so, do you have your permit with you? And then you would know that that's the person that has to be, has been granted the permit, and the fee's got nothing to do with the person there. All they want to know is, are you the person that has a permit, do you have a copy of your permit with you? And if they don't use it. I mean, there has to be something, some protocol in play, especially when you have someone that's paid on the clock, and they don't know if that's, if that's Joe or that's Ann. We don't know who it is. We don't know what organization. Well, we're granting a permit to someone coming before me, and that person paid, they'll have the permit in hand. Yeah, I'm so-and-so, and the person that's working should know what group's coming in.
He should have a piece of paper
Right.
saying who's coming in.
Instead of just, just go out there, you want to work tonight? Well, what are you having tonight?
I know
Well, we don't
Shannon
know.
does give permits to the guys that work.
You-
I know that
So what I'm saying, there
firsthand.
needs to be some better checking on our end to make sure that, and I think from our board members, and I'm looking at something, I'm saying, just in 2024, we're looking at an outstanding fee of what, 12,000, what was my 2024? What was the outstanding fee just for this year?
8,000.
$8,065.
So $8,000. And I don't know if they didn't use the permit, like in some cases you're saying that might happen, or if they used it, the field, but didn't pay for the permit. We don't know. So I think we gotta better police that. We gotta put some procedure in place that if there's someone, again, being paid to be out there, they're out there for a reason.
But that's a discussion you guys would have to have with Shannon, because his people are the ones that are out there for those, and I don't know
Yeah.
what he has the ability to put in place, what he already has in place. I mean, you guys could talk about it tonight, but I don't know what he,
No, and I think we're just trying to come up with some discussion among the board that, going forward, how can we do this? And when it comes with, Shannon, someone, we're the boards, we make policy procedures. Shannon follows policy procedures. He doesn't make them. We make the policy procedures. We say, listen, that person out there working at that stadium or pavilion on this night, they have a permit in hand. They know what group's coming out there and the time they're coming out there. We want to make sure that person's checking the permit and saying, are you so-and-so? There's a contact person on that permit. That permit has a name on it, a contact person. We want to know, are you so-and-so? Oh, no, I'm so-and-so, but I'm representing this organization. We know that. That's the person we get the permit to, and we know that they paid their fee because they wouldn't have got the permit. And if the person didn't show, then we have an outline on our expenses sheet saying permit was not used. So we know that technically it's not an outstanding balance because it.
well, reports generated by the website, we can't manipulate what information is on these. We can run reports, but we can't add or change what the company has on their website.
No, I just want to know whether the permit was used or not used. Because we are saying in some cases, what you've explained to me is in some cases, I said, how do we get the $8,000 deficit? You're saying, well, in some cases, they didn't use the permit. Well, I think we can add another little line here and say, permit was not used. So I know right away that this permit, someone didn't get by with using the field, didn't pay for it, and we gave them a permit, but they didn't use the permit, and didn't pay for the permit, but used it anyways.
Just like that Eaton there, the baseball,
Right.
you're saying that
Right.
he didn't use it, that's $2,500, so it went
Right.
down to under six,
So
five
Shannon's the one
thousand.
that let me know that he wasn't using it, so Shannon, I'm sure, possibly, I don't know for sure,
But shouldn't
must
it-
keep track of it somehow.
This is why I'm gonna go back to this form, that we should have some kind of form for that custodian, that he fills out, that he worked in a party that rented the pavilion. We're gonna use the pavilion, for example, that they showed up, have the person sign that piece of paper and have the custodian sign it and pass it into you, so we know that the permit was being used. If we have no records of if he showed up or not. We have to get a hold of Shannon and find out if they worked.
That'd be a whole new policy and procedure. I don't think it's ever been in place.
We've never done that, but again, if you guys put it in place, I just don't know what logistically if that's something they can do. Because they wouldn't turn it into us, they would turn it into Shannon, because they work for Shannon, so his foreman would have to chase down all the sheets.
I'll be honest with you, I don't care who has it. I just wanted that if we need to check on that, someone has in hand said, yeah, that field was used by this group and they paid. Or by the way, A or B, they didn't use the permit. So now we know, even though that the permit charge from this group was $300, but they didn't use it, so there's $300 that basically, it wasn't used. I just think it's a constant thing. When I get on this board, I think we're somewhere around $40,000. $40,000. And it was mostly one person, but he normally paid the following year. And we changed that format. So now, here we are, here I am 3 years on this board, and we're still running a deficit at $8,000. And I don't know whether or not someone used the field
Right,
for
we
nothing,
don't know.
or whether or not the person used the field but has an outstanding balance. And if they had an outstanding balance, how did they get a permit in the first place?
But the problem is, the only location that would be feasible would be Cawley, because it's the only facility that if there's not a custodian there, it's locked. So if he cancels his custodian for the Shed Park Pavilion, for instance, they won't have bathrooms or power, but they can still use the facility, and there'll be no one there because he canceled them to say if they actually used it. So the only facility that would make sense, or that would be working at, would be Cawley Stadium, because someone could book the pavilion, not pay for it, he can cancel his custodian because there's nobody paid for it, they can still show up and use it. And if the splash pads are open, there'll be bathrooms at the splash pad.
And I think, again, when I've seen in other towns that I've been in, there are certain, especially Drake, when I've been in Drake, but I've seen it in other towns, especially when it comes to fields, permit use only. For instance, the whole stadium should be that way. The alumni field, the softball fields, the new soccer field, the football field.
I believe right now it is considered a permit to use facility at Cawley Stadium only. I don't think it's open for the public to go in
Yeah.
and use unless they have a permit.
Right.
So right now, Cawley Stadium is, as far as I'm aware, in
Yeah.
that
Right.
position.
And I'm not sure if we can do that with the pavilion. That'd be difficult to do the pavilion. It'd really be difficult, because you'd have to have someone checking at night and checking during Saturdays and stuff like that.
Right, but just by looking at this, I know that the third one down was a flag football one that was at Gage Park, so that wouldn't have had someone there if we didn't know if they used it or not. And then the Pirates, they were at South Common, so we don't know which states they did and didn't use it. So that's just all the top two looking at this. I'm sure if we went through this more and more, I mean, you can tell by some of the fees, $170, that would typically be the Shed Park Pavilion.
Right.
There could have been no custodian, it could have been used. So it's not, I mean, this list, for just this year, I'd say half of these are probably not at Cawley Stadium, which could have been used without paying for it, and there wouldn't be anybody there to justify whether it was used or not.
Yeah, but just on number 4, just so you know, on the low, I'm sorry, you said, I wasn't using up on Mass Pirates. Mass Pirates didn't pay for the South Common. We gave them the South Common for free. The only thing they paid for was the Machado Field. It's the only thing we charged them for. Because they were giving community service.
I was just going to say that, because
In lieu of community service, they were working with
Yeah.
they were working with the Rogers School flag football players and stuff like that, and we as a group welcomed them to the city, and we agreed as a board that they're going to get back to the community and all this other stuff, so we gave them the South Common for free. But then they come in and said they didn't want it somewhere in the middle of their season, and then they wanted Machado Field, I believe, or one of them fields, right, John? The practice
Yep.
fields or something? And then we charged them. We said, okay, we're going to charge it. He said, okay, we're fine with that.
she said we got plenty of money, we're not worried about that. That's what she said. I remember her saying that.
Yeah. Another question, Heather, do we send up backup bills to these people?
We don't follow up with it, no.
We don't send
I
a second
don't-
bill to anybody?
Not that,
Not unless you guys direct us to send them another invoice. The policy has always been that we send them the invoice, and then if it's not paid, Shannon then cancels the custodian for it.
Okay. How difficult would it be to generate a second invoice to these people? Is that a lot of work? I'm trying to create work for you.
Well, honestly, we've never looked at doing it, so I don't know if we can resend the invoice or not. The problem is Shannon's office is the one that tracks when people are paying or not, and he's canceling them. So I don't know what his user status on the website allows him to do or not do, so I don't know if he can send invoices or not. So I don't know. That's a question I couldn't answer right now, because I'd have to look into it with the website.
That's okay, but I'd also get a reply from these people whether they used it or not, if they get another bill out, because if they don't get another bill, they're gonna say, all right, done deal, I don't have to worry about it. You know,
I think that's what the problem is. They,
Feel once they didn't pay and nobody's bothering them, they're
yeah,
good.
if they used
Good
it,
to go.
nobody sends them
Yeah.
a second bill, it's like,
I mean, unless, and again, I think this board has said it several times, the only time we know or we can confront them is when they come back again. And most of them don't come back to the same group and ask for a permit, and they say, and you people let us know that they have an outstanding fee. And then all of a sudden, now they're paying the fee because they want to use it again. And I see that possibly happen with the Mass Pirates.
Oh, yeah, I mean, the big people, they're easy enough to track down. You know, you add up, you get 10 of these at 240, that adds up.
Yeah.
Okay? You know, the 1650, it's easy to see. You know, the small ones, you know,
So it looks like the
$25.
1650 is for the turf at Collie.
Okay. Right. So, you know, I would,
I think, Mr.
how we
Chairman,
send out a second bill,
The 50
I
is
think
Machado.
would help solve some of this, because then you get a reply from the
Yeah.
user.
I think, Mr. Chairman, for the purpose of discussion, we can go through a lot of this, but I think it's among the board. We're gonna have a month off in December, so we can hopefully come back in January, especially with all the questions we're having, Peter and Heather answer, that we come back with some type of protocol that we were like, that would involve a second invoice. It would involve a more, I think better protocols of how we can, especially manage the ones that are being, that we have extended services. There's only two facilities that I know that we have most times extended services, and that is the pavilion and the stadium.
Stadium.
Right.
That's normally they have to hire a custodian. Like I said, it's pretty hard to police the rest of this, to be honest with you, unless we give someone a permit and someone's already out there and someone comes out with a permit and says, I got a permit, and that person has to leave, and they say, well, geez, we had it first. No, you don't have a permit. So it's pretty hard to police it otherwise. But I think we as a board have to come up with some type of reasonable policy, and I don't care who has to do it, if there's someone from the parks or someone from the recreation, someone, but we have to have a better policing of charging permits, or you know what, don't charge anybody a permit. We're not gonna police it, then don't have any permits. I mean, don't have any fees, just
And
everybody,
that's not gonna happen.
and that's not gonna happen. It shouldn't happen. But we can't just put our, and it seems like that's what we're doing, just put our hands up and say, well, I don't know who was there, I don't know who was there. Like, that's not the way we do business.
A little more checks and balances is what
Exactly.
we have to do.
Exactly, Mr. Chairman.
You know,
That's my opinion.
And with the system, if the system generates a bill, it probably wouldn't be that difficult to have it generate a second bill to go out, if everything's computerized. Am I correct with that?
I'd say so.
Yeah, so it's just, we check, if it isn't, another one goes out. And then we'll see, a lot of these people, if they say, well, I didn't use it, then we take them at their word, please come in to discuss it. Some people are just gonna say, forget it, I don't wanna do anything, and then we can make a decision how bad you wanna chase $25 or,
Right.
you know, I mean, 245, there's one, Balamontes, $500.
Now that's flag football?
Yep.
Yeah, we asked her to come back, and she never came because she said she never used it, so she didn't want to come back because she said she didn't need credit back because she never paid. And I explained to her on the email that she had to come back to get the fee waived, and she never came back.
Didn't she send someone else in lieu of her?
Oh, is this for the current one she never paid?
Didn't she
So this would be the one that,
Send someone here?
so this would be the one that Mayon came for then?
Damn, yeah, she sent another guy here for.
Yeah, so that's the most recent
Right.
current permit
Right.
that she's
Right.
using.
But then again, I also understand, listen, I'm not, please don't take it like we're aiming our concerns with you, Peter and Heather. But what we're just trying to do is put some type of protocol that's fair to everybody. And it just seems, again, that's what people are doing. They're not paying for the permit. Then they have someone else come here and speak and say, oh, well, we didn't use the field or anything else, but we'd like to use it now.
We didn't know that.
But, you know, it's like Peter said, with
We
these
don't know if they
open,
use it or not, that's my
with
point.
these open fields, it's hard to determine if they used and they didn't. Because they could show up, use it, and tell us that they didn't use it. I know a softball league used to do that with rainouts. They used to play through the rain.
If
they
they
put
come
in for-
in and they tell us
They
they
put
didn't
in
use
for
it,
credit.
then what can you do? Right, you're not gonna call them a liar, at least
No,
you
you
get an
can't,
answer.
but,
At
you
least
know-
you got an answer. I think the top one, Lowell High School, should that even be on here?
So that's gonna be discussed at January's meeting. That was the Friends of Lowell High
Oh,
that we were
okay.
talking about last month.
Right, okay, that's the one.
And they said they were going to get back to us with if it was a Friends or not, and they never got back to us. So it was put off to the January meeting, because I think that Mr. B was here last time as opposed to the athletic director.
You know, is that something in the future we allow it to happen if they're organized within the high school?
Well, the problem is, it comes back to the discussion that Matt brought up at the baseball meeting we had. At what point is our partners part of the same organization?
Right.
Because in the past, you guys have charged, like the car washes, you guys have charged for Friends events to have car washes and stuff like that. And then it opens up the can of worms of, well, how far from the main league is someone affiliated with the league versus it's just another baseball league where someone happens to know somebody from it.
No,
And that's what you guys have to discuss is how that's going to work for you guys to charge fees or waive them.
What are the connections?
You know, I've always been, since I've been on this board, I've been pretty consistent of favoring the high school in the youth leagues. But I think that sometimes is causing us problems. If they're out there on a Saturday or at night and there's no custodian on, they gotta start paying. Everybody has to stop paying. We can't be charging other groups to go out there and the high school kids, and I hate to say it, but if there's nobody working, most times there is someone working. But if there's no one working on a Saturday, and the friends of Lowell High School want them on a car wash, you gotta pay for the custodian.
Right.
If the Lowell High School wants to use it and there's no custodian up there, Lowell High School's gonna pay for it. You take it out of the maintenance of effort, pay somewhere.
Yeah, that's a whole kettle.
Okay,
of
that's
fish.
another can of worms, I understand, Mr. Chairman, I
Don't
understand.
even go there. That one's
Okay.
ridiculous.
But I'm just saying, that seems to be causing the problems, because now we got a third group calling themselves the Friends of Lowell High School,
Right.
and they don't wanna pay.
They've been around for a long time.
I know they have, and they're doing a great job, but what I'm saying is, their extended services they're requesting or requiring, they gotta pay for it.
Well, maybe that's something we have to put in there. If extended services are offered or given, then there has to be a fee associated with it.
I mean, we all agree that if there's a custodian out there, we're not charging people.
Right.
99% of the groups that come before us, if there's a custodian out there, we're not charging them.
But we have to, if we can include that in our wording and in our booklet, then it's there for
Right,
everybody to
right.
see. And notification and communication is always key. They say, okay, here it is. You want extended services? Why should we pay for it? Okay? We're not going to. So if you want to use it, you're going to have to pay for it.
But not charging when there's a night custodian out there has only been new the past 2 years. Before that, we charged everybody for a custodian, no matter what, because we never knew if there was somebody on or not. And because how do you charge Keith for a custodian and then say to Tom, oh, there's already a guy out there, so you don't have to pay?
Yeah.
Right.
And there's no way for us to have
No,
split
That
fees.
has happened, you're, yeah.
Right, and there's no
I
way
think
for us to
everybody
split
should pay, even
fees.
if the custodian's out there, they should
Right,
pay.
and then that
Using-
alleviates a lot of
using
the
the field.
problem.
They're wearing the chair of the field. They should be using, should be charged, everybody.
Yeah, that's a tough one though, Tommy. You know, it's like.
You know, it's not tough. It's not tough.
You're either gotta be hardcore this way or the other. And if you have leniency in one area, then you have to be consistent on the other. And that's the toughest part that we get ourselves in trouble with.
Let's
You know,
let's not
everybody
be so
pays.
easy. Everybody pays. Everybody should pay.
Okay. And if we get overruled by the tower, we get overruled by the tower. And it wouldn't be the first time.
I know it's not going to be the first, but they shouldn't.
Well, they do.
I know they do.
They do. Not as bad as it used
You know,
to
there's a
be.
league out there, they get the permit for nothing, but they have a fundraiser, they raise $25,000, but we give them the permits for nothing,
Yeah, I understand. I understand.
you know? They say, claim they get no money. Why do they have fundraisers then?
They all claim they got no money. They're all claim, you know, they're 501c3.
But, you know,
the charity and they're just-
503A and B, you know, it's a joke. It just shows them that, you know, they have X amount of dollars, and the only thing the government wants to know, if anybody's getting paid over $600, they're getting a 1099. That's all the government wants to know.
Yeah,
You can have all kinds of money in that.
No, it's an accountability of what you're taking in for what purpose,
Right.
okay? That's all. You know, whether they pay the subcontractors and give them a 1099, that's a joke across the state.
Yeah, it's.
Absolute joke. You get paid cash
Keith, you
on the
ran the
field.
union here, you were 503, right?
What's that?
When you ran the union here?
Yes.
Yeah,
No, I don't think the union itself was. I'm
See,
not-
my union
I don't-
was.
Yeah, I don't believe we were.
and every 6 months, I had it audited.
With the,
I had to send it to the government.
All right, so we can kick this around further. What are the, if we had to list 3 items that we would like to do, what would they be? And I'm looking for input from you, Peter, and you, Heather. I don't want to bury you with stuff, okay, which makes it even worse and doesn't solve the problem, okay? Suggestions?
I'd like to maybe continue this discussion in January, when we come up, the board members come up with some type of, gives us a couple months to come up with some protocols, even looking maybe at some other communities, how they come up with some protocols that we have someone on site if they're extended services. In other words, if there's a custodian out at Shed Park, there's a custodian being paid, custodian out at the stadium, they're being paid, they need to check with the permitter, and I think what Tom said, they need to permit and say, so-and-so was here, and they came at this time, left at that time, so we know that there was a group out there that we gave a permit.
We have it on record that they showed up.
So we have someone being accountable, they're being paid anyways. So I don't think the unions are gonna complain, you have me work out of my classification. Well, if that be the case, we'll have Heather go out there, and we'll have to pay Heather overtime.
I don't think she likes that.
But I'm just trying to come up with some reasonable, we gotta put someone, our eyes and ears, Mr. Chairman, we can't be out at every place.
No.
But
We need a little more accountability is
yes,
what it is.
yes, policing of the
Right.
permits, especially when it comes to hiring people.
Extended services.
Yes.
there
Some
we
of
go.
that might even fix itself, right? Like if the Mass Pirates want to come for permits next year, they're not going to get new permits without paying their
Right.
outstanding fees.
And I understand that, but that's the way we got ourselves in that $40,000 problem. I understand when I first got here, is that some place, and I hate to pick on him, but there was one guy, and I won't, because we're on TV, one guy that had a permit, and he got it yearly. Well, he owed us somewhere $16,000, and he wouldn't pay it to the following year when his permit came in, and he pays $16. Yeah, here's my $16,000 from last year.
I mean, it's all public record to mention his name, so
Okay.
you're not
All right.
doing anything.
Well, I don't want to hurt the guy, either.
No, the other thing too, which you can always do is post these things. A lot of organizations, especially clubs, when people are behind, they post who owes. It's amazing how quick those things get paid out. Vesper Country Club did it. They had a new president come in. He said, people that are behind on their bill, we're posting it.
Yeah.
And it got paid up real quick. You know,
When
I
you
mean,
say
they do it with real estate taxes. They do it with excise taxes. It's listed in the Lowell Sun.
So you guys had us reach out to the law department to see what legal things we could do, and we have not heard back
That'd
yet.
be a good thing.
We have not heard back yet. Last year, you guys had us send an email to everybody on this list from 2017 to 2023 that they had another invoice and to please log in and pay, and we still have all these. So sending another invoice and sending another email hasn't worked in the past.
All right.
We can do it again if that's what you guys want, but we keep spinning our wheels,
We have to
and we
come
keep coming up with the same.
policy.
But the problem is, we keep coming up with the same issues of, we're gonna send them another invoice. Well, they ignored the first one, they're gonna ignore the second
Go
one.
to second one.
And especially if they know they're not coming back, so it was a bridal shower or a wedding, or they're not gonna come back, they're not gonna worry about it. And-
I hate to be this mean, but you know what? If you owe exercise tax, or if you owe on a permit, if you're a contractor, you owe on a past permit to the city, you don't get another permit.
Right.
So,
And that's what we do, but the problem is that if you have a league of 60 people, if you owe a fee and Tom's in your league, you have him create an account, and he puts in the permit.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, that's the other
Somebody else
thing.
comes in and gets the
well, we
permit
just seen
wrong.
it recently with even that Bellanos girl, right? I mean, she didn't come before us, but she had someone else come before us.
Right.
And she had an outstanding balance.
And you waived her June balance and gave her this one, it's still unpaid. And that's one of the groups that usually pays by December, so in January they put their new stuff in.
Right.
But again, because of it's a calendar year report that we do every year, it shows up like this, and in January, we might have some of these that pay, or what'll happen is they'll come to the board meeting in January, and they'll be told they have to pay, and then we'll see what happens.
Right, right.
I mean, like I said, before January meeting, I'm sure I'll call, and I have called a few of these other communities, and the Board of Parks and stuff like that, and ask them how they take care of something like this in Pro, so you come up with get creative of what other people are doing in order.
The problem is that a lot of these cities and towns don't issue the amount of permits we do. I mean, the amount of permits Drake issues is nothing in comparison to the 17, 18,000 a year that we issue. So what Drake has done in the past is they have people put their requests in on the website because they use the same system we do, but then people have to come in and pay, and then when they come in and pay, they then approve it. We couldn't have 17,000 people lining our halls waiting to come in and pay. So some of the things that these cities and towns do are great for those because they're smaller organizations. But there's no way that Heather would be able to take 17,000 payments in office with credit cards. I don't even think we can enter a credit card from our side of the website because we don't want to have credit card information.
Right.
So for us, it wouldn't do anything. We couldn't use that method. So some of the cities and towns, because of the volume we have, their methods aren't going to work anyway.
How much is our billing? I mean, if we look at it, we've got $8,000 is the outstanding, out of what total? 100,000?
I would say we took in close to $70,000 this year roughly. So we would have billed almost $80,000, so yeah, about 10%.
10%. And of the 10%, half of that right here we can see belongs to the big people.
Yeah.
The smaller people, Jason, you're never gonna get it.
You're not gonna get it, no.
No, you're not gonna get it. And what it costs you to get it is not worth what you do.
I think, you know, again, Peter, being a larger city, we can utilize a lot more people. We have a CFO, we have a city treasurer, we have an auditor. Maybe they can come up with some recommendations that would help us better pursue the outstanding balance.
Well, what we do every year is we send this report to the finance director for whatever department we report to. So the past 4 years, it's gone to the health finance person, who then brings it to the CFO. And so this year, when we get to mid-December, we'll run this report again, and we'll forward it to the DPW finance person and get their direction on what they want to do too. But again, we do this report every year, and obviously you can see we're not making significant progress on a lot of this. You know, the people who come back year to year will pay. Some of them will be waived, like the Lowell High School one. If you guys decide to waive that as a Friends event, as a high school event, some of these will be waived. Some of them will be paid in January when they come for their next year's permits. But essentially, we do this report every year, and the biggest thing we're told to do is then recontact everybody by email and get them to pay. But people, if they're not paying the first time before their event, they're not going to pay after the event's over, whether they had it or not.
Then you just have to write them off.
So you write them off, you take them out of the computer, so they'll just come in here another time and just get another permit and do the same thing.
Right, and we could,
You can still have the list that we can refer if they come back in again, but they're not on this list.
Right.
Okay, the name can still be there. You don't necessarily wipe it out clean.
Now, Mr. Chairman, with something related to this, the MIAA, I did have a conversation with the CFO, Connor Baldwin. He actually sent me an email today. I will send it out to the rest of the board members and Peter and Heather. The response he got from the business manager, the new business manager from the school department. It's quite interesting, but
Yeah.
I will send it to you, and then we can maybe discuss it at our January meeting. But
All right.
I know they're not using the fields this year.
right, but how they're generating and what happens with the money, and you know a lot of that. I mean, he hit on that, the business manager, about a lot of it is no ticket sales. It's basically everything's done on a computer. So
Everything's on the computer
yeah,
now.
and there's and it was interesting when he told me about where the money actually goes. It doesn't go to the school department, it comes into the general, I don't know. I'll send you the email
Yeah.
that he sent me today, the response he got from the business manager. Because I think with the new fields coming out, the new soccer field that we have out there and stuff like that, I think in the near future, you're gonna see the MIA is gonna try to be coming into the city and using our field. But that happens too when you have better teams. If you have a better football team, you're in the playoffs, then you're gonna have, more use of your fields.
well, don't forget too, they also changed the playoff system, so the last 2 rounds are at neutral sites.
Right.
So if Lowell High does have better teams, then they won't be coming here.
No, yeah. Well, maybe we do our improvements to our field, our stadium out there. We're doing, what, $8 million proposed renovations out there?
They look for fields that they can control the crowd,
Yeah.
control people coming in and out. If it's not caged in, they don't want it. If it's open, they tried that a couple years ago with an open field and they lost tons of money. But they make a lot.
So, Mr. Chairman, with that, I'll make a motion that maybe we continue this discussion.
Okay.
Back in the January meeting and the board come up with some recommendations.
When you
And how
Can
to
you
have some
clarify
better-
that for recommendations that each board member
Recommendations?
should come up with?
Well, we
2
come
or
up with some
3
recommendations on
items?
how to better police the financing of the permits
Right.
users.
I would like to have that each board member be responsible for coming up with a couple of recommendations as opposed to, we'll discuss it
Yeah.
then, because that's the same as we're doing now,
Sure.
okay? All right. You want to reword that one, Keith, in the motion?
I make a motion that the Board of Parks board members will come up with some recommendations to be proposed at our January meeting on how we can better police the financing of our park permits.
Okay.
Does that sound consistent with what we're talking about?
Yeah, that's encompassing, yeah.
I'll second it.
Okay. Kai, you have any comments?
No, not enough. I actually, well, I have a recommendation, but it's a question.
Yeah.
But, for right now, I'm on board with, meeting in January with the recommendations.
Okay.
I do have a question though.
Sure, go ahead.
Is it possible for us to, is it possible for us to have an iPad or a computer that we have like at each meeting, so that before, if we're asking these people, if we're asking like any requesters, why they haven't paid or anything, if they could pay on site
I lost you.
at the, so say, I don't know.
Oh, you mean when they come in here and ask for something?
Yeah,
Pay
exactly.
then?
And then so that if we have like an iPad or computer where they can log in and then pay right then, and if we say like, all right, well, we'll give you the permit if you pay what you
can
owe
ask
right
that.
now.
Not Heather.
Is that possible? I mean,
I don't know if that's.
Well, we have laptops in the office, but it would generally mean that you'd have to stop after every person for her to approve the permit, create the invoice, then take payment, so it'll take 5 to 10 minutes in between each item that you
You're all
hear.
right then. We
So
got-
last
yeah,
April, you guys had 37 items.
yeah.
Right, all right.
And some of the permits are very easy to approve, but when you have ones where you're changing times and you're changing dates and you're taking dates off, then you have a crowd of people here waiting to go, and she's trying to do all those things at once, it makes it difficult. It's something we could possibly try to figure out how to do, but it would put a lot of pressure on the board to slow down in between items and extend the length of the meetings.
Yeah. That's why I figured I would ask logistically.
So if it was an easy one, so like a shed park pavilion permit where the times weren't changing,
Mm-hmm.
it's just a matter of going in, approving it, and then they could make payment right there if they logged in from their side on the public side.
Yeah.
But they can do that right from their phone if we approve the permit.
Okay. Because for the people who are delinquent, if it's like, yeah, well, you owed us like $450 for last year. Where's that money?
Yeah, so
And
these
then so they
people,
could go
so let's say that,
So you're saying pay for previous permits,
Exactly.
not
Okay.
a new
Yeah, pay for
permit.
like the
so
delinquent.
they could do that on their phone right here.
Okay.
If you put up a sign, I mean, we could put a sign up at the door that says, if you owe money from last year, log in and pay
Mm-hmm.
prior to being heard by the board, or your item will be denied, or something like that. I
Yeah.
mean, people can log in from their phone and pay whenever they want. It doesn't, I mean,
Right.
it's not a matter of not having accessibility to pay, that anybody can do it. Most of these people are putting in their requests through their phones as well.
Okay, yeah, because that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Like, because.
So that's more feasible for
Yeah.
something that's already approved.
Is it, okay, yeah, that's what I was thinking, so that, and good idea on the sign, so that it can be like, basically, like, not to say enter at your own risk, but it's like, just so you know, we're not required to, like, if you already have a delinquent account, we're not required to,
Well, the other thing you could do is we could have a laptop here, so when someone came up who has a delinquent fee,
yes,
Heather could look it up and say, well, they have a delinquent fee, and you guys could say, go over there, pay, we'll go hear the next person, once you pay, we'll take you back up.
that's what I'm saying.
Because then she would be able to look it up and see that they paid.
Right
That's what I'm
away.
thinking.
But in that way, they'd have the ability to pay on their phone and make their payment, but go on to the next person, and then she could, when they come back, say, yep, they've paid, they're all set.
That- Thank you, Peter.
All
That's
right, we're a
exactly.
little bit off the motion, but,
But that was why I wanted to ask, just so that's food for thought for the next meeting.
is that anything you're amiable to, Heather, or is that?
If that's something that we could do, then
Yeah, I don't
I
want to
have no
create
problem
a
doing
mess for
what we
you.
have to do.
Okay, so we understand what the motion was, to come back at the January meeting with suggestions on how we can improve this, and each board member's going to have a couple of items that they can present. Is that the crux of the motion, Keith?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we have a second on
I
that?
second it.
We have a second from Thomas. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay, thank you. So that covers the permit fees. Hold on a second. Okay, discussion of Border Parks handbook. Okay, we ready to go on to that?
Yes, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I just got the ordinance tonight, but, and I know we spoke briefly before the meeting about the motion I made in second, I believe it was at the September meeting concerning the subletting
Okay.
of the field. And they said it's number 11. Is it in this ordinance or no? I don't see it.
Nope, so all they did with that was approve the fee structure.
structure.
That's only the fee structure. So the
Okay.
handbook was approved at, what, 2 meetings before?
Yeah, 2 meetings before that, the handbook was approved, and then that, they had to do it.
Copy of the amended handbook that was approved?
Yeah, I believe I just sent it to you, so we don't have a paper
Okay.
copy, but I just sent you the electronic.
That's fine. That's
So if you go on our website, lowellma.myrec.com, at the bottom of the page, there's 3 pictures, one that just tells people to create an account, one that says help wanted for our part-time staff, and then the handbook policy, there's a picture of it right there, you click on that, it'll open up the board book that's currently approved right there.
Okay. With that being said, Mr. Chairman, can I make a couple of recommendations?
Sure, by all means.
I know there was one that we had talked about previously. I'm not sure we ever voted on it to put in the handbook, but I know we discussed, and I know everybody was sort of in favor of it. And that was requesting a deadline, permit seasonal deadline for spring
Yes.
seasons, summer season. And when I refer to my notes, I'm looking at the, was it Barica? I believe it was Barica's,
Yes, it was.
Yeah, it was.
yes. It was Barica's format. Barica's format. I'm sure everybody has a copy, if not with them, they have it at home, but maybe we can take a look at that to, I have it in order here. Barica is a spring season, April 1st through June 30th. You want permits for them dates. Your application deadline was, they had February 15th. I think I proposed March 1st.
Yeah, what would you like, Kiki?
I thought I proposed March 1st. I think this was at the September meeting, I might have brought it up.
Yeah, I remember you brought up some specific dates, and
And then I can write it out and send it to Heather in the morning. In the summer season, if you want a permit from July 1st to August 31st, then you had to have your application, the deadline for that was June 1st. And then we went a third one, which is fall season. You want a permit between September 1st and November 30th. You had to have your request, that permit had to be requested by August 1st. So there's no more, what would, the intent of the seasonal permitting is, so we don't have a blanket permit coming in from April 1st till October.
correct.
And then people not using the fields after a certain point in time, and the fields are not being able to utilize. With the intent of this is more people that are running leads, and not people looking for single permits, for a single date.
Right, right.
It's more to people that looking for multiple dates. And again, we're finding out from this board, and we're finding out from some of the city councils, that people are having the permits and they're not using the permits. And in some cases, that's where we're getting the problem of subletting your permit, because now you have it from April 1st to October, and then you're not using it in after August, but you say, hey, you want to use my permit, I get the permit for that
Yep.
field.
Yeah.
So I think that's the intent of putting a seasonal permit deadline
That should,
in
yeah,
order,
that's,
is to try to control somehow. Is it gonna be perfect? I don't believe it's going to, but at least we'll have an idea of anyways of
It
letting people
helps.
know that we're watching.
it helps.
And that we wanna open the fields to the public when you're not using, when leads are not using, we want the mom and pop to be able to go down to the park, if you're not using it that night, you go down there and play with your children.
You
or
can't do that
grandchildren.
anyways.
What's that?
You can't do that anyways. They get chains on them.
That's another story, but that's another,
I mean,
that's
it's,
another.
I know it's another story,
Yeah.
but, you know, we told them to take it off, they didn't, so. I went by a field just yesterday and seen a change on them.
We have to hold people accountable for that, but that's, I think I didn't want to get off my,
No,
this
continue,
season.
continue on your point, Kiki.
Okay, that's the seasonal permitting I got.
All right. Do we have the date, you have the dates for that, Heather?
I have them.
I
You
can
have
send
them
it
down,
to you if
okay.
you want.
And I should have them from the previous
Before,
meeting that we
right,
talked.
right. I think we discussed those pretty at length, and that seemed to be pretty good.
The problem you're gonna run into with that is organizations like me, we can't advertise our summer camps until we have permits. If I can't put permits in till June,
You're exempt.
well, the problem is, once you start making exceptions for groups, that's where we run into all kinds of problems.
You're the city, you're the city, you're the city alone.
Easy answer. You are exempt. Okay, just like Lowell High School gets priority. No questions, no answers.
I just think you're better off taking individual permits that you've had issues with this in the past and taking them separately from other organizations. That's my only opinion.
We can continue to do it at the same time, Peter, but also you need to have those dates to run your programs, okay? And I don't think anybody looking at it's going to understand that, and if they don't, go play somewhere else.
Right, but what we're essentially doing is we're punishing 90% of the leagues for 10% of the issues. And that's the problem you're running into. Some of these people have to come back 3 or 4 times to get their permits, who've never had an issue with it.
Yeah. I mean, in the old days, they used to have to submit
A
a
schedule.
schedule, okay? And Pat was notorious. You didn't have a schedule, you didn't get anything. I don't know if you remember back then, you know, and we're not forcing them to do that. And that would alleviate something. A lot of it was bullshit schedule anyways.
Well, the problem with giving a schedule is then when it rains, it throws the whole schedule off anyway.
Correct. Okay? But those people that need something, there's always to be an exception if they come in and they're a frequent user. And we've always had in the past that if we have people that are frequent users, we can always treat them a little bit different. And we've always left that space open to allow that to happen. Okay, frequent users, whatever you want to call it. Frequent flyer pass or, you know, yeah, because there are going to be exceptions. And I understand we don't want to penalize. And if you got a big organization, I mean, when people say that, you know, we've got a big organization of 600 kids and only one person can show up and they can't get a backup, something wrong.
Well, see, I think the biggest problem you have is groups that are permitting fields for just in case.
Right.
And those are the people that are causing a bigger part of the problem, because we know there are groups, and I'm not going to name any of them, that there's a group permitting a field that's not even, it doesn't even get used for that sport anymore, and they continue to put in a permit for the field every year. And I think that's more of an issue than booking dates out.
Do we have, it leads me to a question we probably do, and I'm not aware of, that if we have a field, what can that field be used for? Do we have a listing?
So the
Like,
Parks
say we
Department,
need a field, you can only play bing, bing, bing on it.
so the Parks Department had an updated manual about 15 years ago, and that's what the website was created on.
Okay,
I don't know if he's made changes to the fields since then. We don't get updated when there are changes being made to fields, whether it's added fields or changes of names of fields or changes of usage of fields, unless we're here at the board and someone mentions that you're like Hovey Field, when you guys added the cricket pitch in. That was the only time, because it was done here at the board meeting. But if it's not done at the board meeting, then we don't know if anything's being changed or not.
I don't think this board has a problem. I've never heard anybody in this board talk about any of the leads coming in. I've been involved with youth baseball for over 35 years. Tom's been in probably for long enough. John's been around. I think what we're trying to do is when these people are now putting in a permit, and maybe there's only 1 or 2 groups out there, but they're getting a permit from April 1st to maybe August 30th or Labor Day, and they want 6 different fields, and they're only playing on 2 or 3.
Two or three a night.
I don't think it's not good business, because I think the average person that would, like I said, the mom and pop that, you know, all of a sudden gets a kid out after supper, there's nobody on there, go up there and start playing. Somebody says, well, I got a permit for this field, you got it out there, and no one, and then, I don't know, it just makes better practice. What we're trying to do is get truth in scheduling. And
But the problem is, this isn't going to change that. They're still going to permit all the fields they want to use, and once they have the permit, if they don't need them, they're not going to give them back. And the average person who wants to go use the field, honestly, isn't looking on our website to see if it's permitted or not. They're just showing up to play.
Right, no.
So making them come back 3 or 4 times to get permits, it's just punishing the leagues that aren't breaking the rules, that are pulling correct permits and are playing by their permits. I mean, I understand what you're saying, and I understand what you want from the leagues, but all this is going to do is make them come back 3 times to Laddie instead of coming once.
make them come back 3
Come back,
times and
you
be a
know.
little more accountable. Okay? If they weren't putting the stuff in and not using them, we wouldn't have the problem. So they kind of
We have-
help.
Right, but you guys have been talking,
We have-
but you guys have been talking about them putting in permits and not using them for years, and you're still approving the permits. So, I mean, big them coming back for the same thing is, it's just
We also
wasting.
told them to try to come in with a true schedule.
Yeah.
We gotta.
Right, but it's been several years, and again, we're still giving them the same permits they put in for. We aren't holding them to a true schedule. Last year was the best year we had.
Yeah, they
Where
cut-
Lowell Youth Baseball cut back significantly, and they're just one of the groups that have used the fields to a huge extent. But I think we're moving in that direction the right way, but I just don't know if cutting it up by time of year.
That we're doing it.
Right, because I think that then a group that still is going to put in for 17 fields, because they're going to come in January to put in for all the fields, they don't have their registration done for some of these leagues. So they're not going to know what they're going to need for fields yet, but they need to get the fields secured before someone else takes them.
See, this is the intent of my proposal, is have discussion. Not that I think my proposal is gonna work. My proposal is just to have the discussion on it and throw it out there. And if you come up with some ideas that you say, hey, listen, I think this works, that's what we want to listen to. So I think my job is just come up and say, I don't have the, solid answer and solution for every issue we got out there. I'm just saying, it needs to be discussed. And we
Well-
keep on kicking that can down the road, and we say, the next year we get the same problem. Well, we haven't discussed it enough to finally come up with some type of reasonable resolution to the problem.
Right.
And
the
that's what I'm
leagues-
trying to do.
Yeah, the leagues have a lot of smart people there that will be feedback to us on how to work things.
Right, but the problem is that they wanted to be part of that conversation. That's what they said at that special meeting we had, but they're not here. And, that's the thing. We need to have those groups tell us what's the best way to do this, because
Go ask them.
we're not getting input from them, and we're trying to tell them how to do their business, which is our prerogative, because they're our fields. But on the same side, if they need 12 fields on Monday, but only 2 on Wednesday, are they going to change their requests based on that? And to be honest with you, we don't get, as far as I know, compared to the amount of permits we issue, I'm not getting a lot of people calling and complaining they can't get a permit for a field. What I tend to see is that people say there's not enough soccer fields in the city. Because there's only, 4 full-size soccer fields in the city, and if you don't want to go to Colley Stadium. And that's what I see as more of an issue. I don't usually see that baseball can't get fields or softball's not getting fields. I'm usually seeing that it's the type of sport, like soccer, there's not enough soccer fields.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because I had thought about that day, because when we were out at Hovey, they used that field, remember, we had the people come here and they worked it out with the Indians, the people that had the cricket and until they worked it out. But I'm also looking at, when you're looking, I'm looking at the Edwards Field. Them people just think they own that field. They don't own that field. Listen, we acknowledge everything they put into that field and everything else, but if that's the only huge soccer field, and there's 4 fields out there, why should they be given the permit for 4 fields for the whole year if they're not using it? Then nobody else got any places, like you're saying, Peter. There's not too many soccer fields in the city. And I was trying to think offhand, where are the other soccer fields? There's not many.
Is there one at Shed Park?
No, the only one at Shed Park was used by Lowell High, but I don't think they use it anymore. There's 2 at
There's a league
McPhail.
out there that use it besides Shed Park, Lowell High School.
Well, they don't get a permit for it, because they'd have to come here to get a permit from you. So there's 2 at Gage Park, but one's full-size, one's smaller.
Right.
There's LeBlanc out in Pawtuckettville. There's the,
To have,
Campbell doesn't
They
any-
come and use the Bartlett School? Wasn't it?
well, the Bartlett School, so the problem with the Bartlett School multi-purpose field is that the multi-purpose field is made up of the 2 outfields.
Yeah.
So if someone has a permit for either one of those 2 ball fields, you can't use the multi-purpose
It's out
field.
For the softballs.
Right.
Really haven't been.
Um,
The other people don't use the softball fields.
But that's, Maria Claudio usually uses that area. They're the ones that usually permits
Tell
that.
me now, almost 99% of times at the North Common.
Yeah, they usually permit both behind the Bartlett School and the North
That's
Common
another
though.
league that I'm concerned about. They have permits for the bottom, they don't use it.
They don't use it, yeah.
And then,
So, Peter, our intent is not to, try to single these leagues, like you're saying, that legitimate coming in here. It's the people that want to say, I'm going to hold on to this and hold on to that just in case. I don't want them just in case. I want you to use the field. If you're using the North Common 99% of the times, get a permit from North Common.
right, but the
Get a permit from
biggest,
Bartlett
the
School.
biggest group that does that is the high school. The high school permits stuff, and they'll tell you, well, we aren't playing on, there was a day last year, 2 weeks in a row, I forget what group it was. They called because they wanted to play football on the turf, and Lowell had it, and Lowell told us they were going to use it, and the guy sent us pictures driving by, and there was nobody on the field.
Yeah.
And so the next week, they wanted it again, and Lowell had it again, and you guys had us call Lowell High and tell them they couldn't have.
Semi-pro football.
And,
And I think this group, this board has a problem with that.
but the problem is, it's the same groups every year, and nothing's being done to fix it. And
That's why we're asking for some of your
but
recommendations.
my point is, I don't know if breaking it up by year, by the time of the year is gonna make a difference. I'm not seeing a significant amount of people calling for permits who can't use them. Most people who want to go and use a field, the mom and pop family, isn't looking on our website. They don't even know we have a website, to be honest with you.
Peter, this seasonal thing is not a rule. It's a proposal for discussion.
Let's see what
And that's all
happens
we're
with
doing. We can use it, we can not use it, but we're coming up, and this is why, Peter, we have you here, because you're saying, listen, this is with my experience, you can have this, but it doesn't mean it's gonna take care of the intent of your problem that you're trying to propose. And that's what we wanna hear. We're just trying to throw this out for discussion, how we can better, how do I wanna say, better utilize our field? Instead of having one group that has 2 fields tied up and is only using one. And nobody else can use the other fields because they can't even put a permit in for a request for it, because when you go on the site, it's tied up by the, let's just say, the Roberto Clemente League. They got the Bartlett and they got the North Common, but the North Common 99% of times. Well, why do you need a permit then? for the
We're not
Bartletts?
gonna solve all those problems. There's always gonna be the exceptions.
But I think
You got the
with the-
majority of the users are the people that have used them continuously. If people wanna use something on a specific date or something, a lot of times we've asked the group that use it, and they usually very acquiesced and give it
Right.
back so the other people can use it. And that's communication between the groups, and as long as we communicate with them, it's worked out pretty much,
Right.
for the most part. There have been conflicts, there have been issues. I mean, every time you have change, you do something, it's gonna happen. You know, when people, like you say, Edward Street, the amount of work and time and effort and money that they put in there, you know, they believe it's their home field.
Right.
And there's a lot of stuff been put into it, and,
Well, we can say the
you
same
know.
with the McPherson's.
McPherson's
right,
too.
all the different areas, and they believe that they're putting their time and effort and their money and their sweat,
Right.
that they're entitled to something.
Right.
Yeah, there isn't, something has to be given to it, and
Right.
you have to acknowledge that, because if you don't, you know, you take care of the people that take care of us.
I appreciate that, Mr. Chairman, and I agree with it. What I'm just saying that, don't come in blanket, and that's a perfect example, blanket from April to September, and you're only using 3 fields, and there's 1 field open. That's all we're saying, is let's share it. If you're not utilizing it, share it, give it back to us, and we've seen that
Well,
happening
they
a
don't
little
still have
bit
3
this year.
fields, they rotate the fields that are there.
No, I have grandchildren
Yeah,
playing out there,
Yeah,
Mr.
They
Chairman, so I'm
use
not
the
going against
smaller
it.
ones,
Yeah.
and they use the
I-
bigger ones, and they rotate it, and they do all that, and it's, you know.
I'm just saying that I think that's the intent, what we're trying to do, is just try to open space if you're
Open
not
up the
utilizing
field.
it. That's
No,
all we're trying to
I
do.
totally agree, and I don't think they've ever had a problem with other people who wanted to use it, that they've said no.
Well, I think a lot of people, if they went
Don't
on the
know.
site, like Peter said, if they went on site, it's not available.
Yeah,
I
but
can't go to that
but
park,
but
it's not
who's gonna
available.
do it? Then we get the people that come in and say, I'm a new group, and they, they think we don't know anything about soccer in the state. I know more about soccer in the state than most of the people that come in here. And they come and they lie to us, so it's like, come on, you take care of your own kids first. And granted, sometimes people are gonna get upset, but, you do the best that you can. Because
But
they're
we-
gonna be there to protect the stuff when all's said and done, so.
John, since I've been on the board, we've been given blank permits to the different organizations that,
Right.
from April 1st to September 1st, and sometimes October 1st. Their league, from the spring league starts maybe in April, mid-April, beginning of May.
Depending on the weather.
Right. And it only goes to June 15th. When school gets out, the league's done. Then they have a traveling teams.
Right.
They don't have all these kids that they have from June, from,
That
say,
usually ends in July.
right, they usually only have 1 or 2 traveling teams for baseball, and the same thing with softball. So they don't need
yeah.
all these fields for the month of August and
So by
September.
putting in the times and cutting back what they got, I mean, I think we all agree we're not gonna give blanket permits out anymore.
Right.
How we institute in the policy and how not to offend and get people to work with us, we have to work
right,
through.
right.
And as Kiki said, we bring it up for discussion.
Right.
And discussion will allow us to probably say, oh, jeepers, why didn't we think of that before?
And I think the word's getting
I
out
like
there.
this here.
The word's getting out there, Mr. Chairman, I agree with you, because
Right.
we can now get groups working with each other. I mean, we've had even the largest group that we have, baseball or softball, come back and said, you're right, we're not using the field, this and this field, that field's available. But again, the hardest part is when Peter's saying people are not requesting it, well, people are not requesting, because when they go online, it's already booked. So why am I requesting it?
Yeah,
So
but
it's
who
difficult.
are
to-
those groups? We don't know.
Well, we don't know unless they come here and tell us,
We
listen,
don't
we request that
know.
field, but, so, I don't know what the answer is. I don't know if there's some other mechanism to say, well, put your request in anyways, and then see if we can work with you. I don't know. I don't know if there's another way. Or we said, no, that
Is
field's
there
taken.
anything on the website that says people that the things are filled, they can make a special request to the
No,
board?
there
Is there
isn't.
anything
No,
on
we-
so
there?
if it's already
we thought of that
reserved and
before.
permitted,
Then you
they
can't request that day.
request it.
We usually, if somebody does call, like Lowell Youth Lacrosse,
Right.
if somebody does call and says somebody has a permit, we usually get this, they then email us what they're looking for, and then the email comes to the board, and they come and they talk to the board, and we contact the group that has the permit, so they can come too if they want to talk to the board about why they shouldn't give the permit up.
All right. I mean, I just want to make sure there's something available that people can make a request.
So it's not, the website doesn't let you make a request. The website doesn't let you. We can add to the website that people can make an email if it's booked, but we don't want it to become people. So the problem we run into is if we open up other options, people don't want to create an account and put in a request, and they don't understand why. And so we try to get them to create the account and put the request in, and then if it's not available, then they can email us and find out
That's
more
what I was asking,
information.
Like,
Yeah,
is there a B, option B, where even though?
Yeah, it happens every year. Lowell Youth
even though
Lacrosse is the
field you're
biggest.
requesting, it-
Yep,
what-
Lowell Youth Lacrosse and
you-
Pop Warner are the
you
two
tell us
biggest
what
groups
days
that
you're
do
looking
that.
for, What fields, we may be able to accommodate you, something to that. I just want an option B.
Yeah, Lowell Youth Lacrosse and Pop Warner are the two biggest groups that run into that every year.
Yeah.
It's usually conflicts with Lowell High School or, I think Lowell Youth Soccer in the past has been a conflict with somebody. I think it's the charter school used to get a permit.
Yeah, the Catholic League there.
Yeah, the
what's her name?
Cheryl
Cheryl, yeah.
Saber.
For sure.
But they've always worked that stuff out together. They get
That
along
school's
pretty
closed
well.
now.
Pardon?
They closed that school.
Yeah, and then you now also have the other, that have their own soccer field over there that they're utilizing, the high school by the river there, the bridge.
So, Mr. Chairman, can I go to my second request?
Sure.
A request for the handbook. I know we've talked a lot about it, is tournament permits.
Okay,
Teams that are requesting permits to have a tournament. I don't know if we have to start with defining what is a tournament. Do we have to define what is a tournament? Is a tournament is more than 4 teams? Is it more than 2 teams? What do we have to do? We have to define, I think, what is a tournament. And in the tournament where you're charging other participants to play in a round robin tournament,
okay. That's a good question.
and in the fields you're requesting to use. Because if someone wants to run a tournament, a soccer tournament, I think we've had them in the past. I haven't seen them since I've been on the board, but you've had these leads go up there and want to run a tournament, a soccer tournament out at the stadium.
Okay.
I don't know what we've charged them in the past, but when you check, for instance, and I look at the Worcester, looking more at, and this is a city, big city. So when you look at their fees, they're talking about a non-synthetic field, a flat fee of $9.50 per field per day. Additional fees will be added based on the permit needs. In other words, that's a flat fee. So if you need a custodian out there, or you need other services extended to you, like if you're at the stadium, we have light fees if you're gonna be playing at night, and we have other fees that are attached to it. So that $9.50 would be a flat fee. And that Worcester is per field, per day. That's non-synthetic. If you want to use a synthetic field, a fee is $2,200 per field, per day. Additional fees will be added. That's just a flat fee to use the field. That's not including custodians and other things. So
Okay.
I'm just trying to throw some figures out there, what other communities, especially a city relative to Lowell size.
Do we know how often they're used, Keith?
I don't know. I try to
Oh,
put a
Worcester,
phone
I
call.
could say they don't use them at all with those fees.
I try to use,
Pardon?
They don't use them because the fees are too high.
yeah.
Okay.
We're the lowest, we're the lowest in the state,
Yeah.
okay?
All right.
And that's why I think I proposed 1,000, I think at one time, at one meeting, I think I have somewhere in my notes at 1,000, but I think it was for discussion. But I think, Mr. Chairman, I want to make this statement now, and I don't, whether people like it or not.
Make it.
I want as little use as possible in my high school fields. Little use as possible, other than my high school children, high school kids, and my Lowell residents. I don't want to be using the fields. We've got an $8 million renovation going up there, and we got not only the city, but you got a private group out there of citizens out in that
Attractors.
area, the Friends of Ohio, whatever you want to call them. They're raising over $1 million to get out there. And we want to maintain these fields. And the more uses, if people want to use the fields, especially outside groups, I think we need to,
Whack them.
we need to charge them appropriately.
Why don't we just vote them down? If you don't want the field to be used, the board can deny a request. Why don't we vote them down? I haven't seen anybody ever vote against a request that came in here.
Well, there's only two permits I think I remember, and they both within the last year, and that was Mill City Football and Lowell Catholic. And we gave both of them the fields for less than $400.
That's a steal.
I mean,
But again, if you don't want out-of-town groups to come in, I mean, you guys even had that softball group that came in. You talked him out of doing 2 permit dates. You approved the first one. You could have voted it down if he's out-of-town guy.
Yeah.
And then he never came back for the second one because the first one didn't happen, and he had to come back to do a refund or a credit.
Right.
But you guys can vote down
We
people
gave
from
him
out of
that last one.
town.
That was the same guy that we gave
Right,
last time.
but you guys can deny out-of-town permits if you really don't want to, there's no point. If you don't want it to be used, make it so they can't use it.
Let me just say that maybe I'll rephrase what I don't say I don't want nobody to use it, but if you're going to use it, you're gonna pay for the maintenance of that field.
it's simpler to just say no.
So just so you know, the fees that we generate go into the city general fund.
Right.
It doesn't go back to the Parks Department to
Right.
pay for the maintenance for that field.
Your bonus?
It doesn't go to anything for the
Set up a
divisions.
revolving account,
It does no, so the money doesn't, it goes to the city, so it doesn't go towards the cost for that field for that year at all. So just so that way we are on the same page with that.
We had revolving accounts years ago.
Yeah. No, let's not go there, I guess.
That's why you still have a nameplate that Keith wants.
Yeah, I know. We don't wanna.
Let's get back to how we gonna determine a tournament.
Okay. What is it? Number of teams?
Correct.
Length of time? Who's
How many-
playing?
When they come in and put a request in for, so let's use softball, because that's what I am, softball man, okay? Somebody comes in, they're running a tournament on a weekend, they come in here, they're saying they need 3 fields. That's telling me they got at least 8 to 10 teams.
Okay.
They need that many fields. So that's a tournament, you know. These fees that we're charging are very low compared to other towns. We look into Woburn, North Reading and all that,
Oh, yeah.
and you see what those guys have to pay. That's why they don't have tournaments. This is why Lowell is the tournament city of the state. Just Lowell, Tewksbury, and Chelmsford. This summer has got 23 tournaments. This summer. We're the biggest,
Just softball?
just softball.
Wow.
Yeah, that's every summer. That's every summer. You go right on to USA softball, hit youth tournaments. Listen, there's 3 or 4 pages throughout the whole state where all the tournaments are being held throughout the state.
Now, is there any economic benefit for the city for having these tournaments? Because that's an office.
No, they don't make nothing. The city doesn't get
The city
nothing.
doesn't get anything. All right.
No,
I mean, it's
only thing
brought
they-
up every year.
Right.
That's all.
The only thing
Bring it
the
up
city gets is the fee that we get, we on Gil, use Gil, we make $10,000 to $12,000 off him. And anybody who runs a tournament is making money. They'll make 4,000 to 5,000, if not more. The bigger, the more they make.
Yeah, that goes without question.
It all depends what they're charging too. Gil is the cheapest in the state. The state is arguing with him to raise his prices. Gil thinks he's still in the 60s.
God bless God.
So,
All right, so we gotta come back, everybody's gonna come back with a defined definition of what it is. If we all have our own idea of what a tournament is, then we can decide and vote on it then. We're not gonna do that.
It's gonna be hard, because if somebody comes in, they need 3 fields or 5 fields, we know that they're gonna have X amount. We have organizations came in here for basketball. They wanted 2 courts for the whole day. So if they need the court for the whole day, that means they've got at least 6 teams, 6 to 8 teams, and it's gonna be
I think you've got to do it based on permits. 'Cause if
Permits,
you
yeah.
put up a definition, someone's going to find a loophole in
they're
whatever
gonna find a
definition you
loophole.
put together.
Gotta be able to come up
I think you got to judge it based on each thing, and if it's not a tournament, it's a one-day event, maybe it's the same thing as a tournament fee. I mean,
Right.
if you put a definition in there, we're going to put something in there that someone's going to look at and say, well, it's not a 12-team tournament. I have these 6 teams playing for fun over here, and these 6 teams playing for fun over here, and we might have one team at the end play against each other. And
Nobody
they're going to
does
say
it
it's not
fun.
a tournament.
What was Matty saying? This isn't a tournament. What was Ryan saying? This isn't a tournament. This is our own people. I mean, it is a tournament.
It's a tournament.
Right.
When you get 32 teams, playing 8 fields for 4 days, it's a tournament.
So seasonal deadline, we gotta come up with tournaments. What is it? We'll have to come up with definition of what it is and then decide to accept something. And no matter what we come up with, good point, Peter, someone's gonna try to find a loophole.
Getting back to permits on that, speaking about tournaments, when somebody comes in to get a permit,
Yeah.
is there anything on that permit saying what it's for?
When they get their actual permit, or will they fill out the application?
When they get the permit, like, an organization comes in, I'm gonna run a league permit. Is it for their league, or is it for tournaments too?
Blank one's handy. Blank permit fee, a blank
A blank,
form.
No, it's all
No.
online. I could print that out.
Yeah.
So we can put whatever notes on a permit we want. So if you guys want us to highlight it's a tournament, or we can do that.
Right, okay.
So like when
can
someone
we
gets
list
a,
it, like tournament, league, charitable, whatever, and just check it off?
so we can't make changes to the website.
Right.
But we can make notes on any permit we want. So if, like, let's say Lowell Youth Baseball and Softball, if they identify to you that these 15 dates are league play and these 3 dates are tournament play, we can issue the tournament permit separately and put on their tournament.
Right.
And we can put it in big bold letters but like when we do the Shed Park Pavilion, if someone has a permit that allows grilling, we put on there grilling, gas grilling has been allowed by the board, or charcoal grilling has been allowed by the
Don't
board.
make any changes on it.
Because the website is a website that a company from Vermont uses, and there's like 150, 200 different cities in the area that use it. So if they make a change to the system, it changes everybody's permit. So they don't make changes based on individual cities. If there is a large outpouring of cities who want to change, they will look into it, and they will charge a fee accordingly.
Right.
But I think the city pays around $1,000 for the permit system that we use, because we don't take in almost any fees compared to other cities and towns.
That's
Right.
cheap.
Yeah, well, we don't
You can
charge,
just put, this is permit for league only, and this for tournament.
yeah, we can make those notes on any permit, because like I
That's-
said, we
that's-
do all the
That
time.
should be all right.
Right, okay, I know we can do that. All
Yeah.
right.
And if there's anything permit by permit that we need to make, if you guys say at the meeting, we want this noted on the permit, we can go back and add that in when we approve the permit. And we can actually make it an invoice note too, so when they get the invoice, it'll be right on there. That way they know what they're paying for when they log in.
Because all tournaments should come in front of us.
Yeah, they do.
I
Anytime,
don't know how many times, but
nope, anytime that we have a permit comes in that's for a tournament, it comes to you guys.
Okay. All right. All right, what else?
Mr. Chairman, I also have, which, again, it's just a discussion, is a
Yeah.
liability insurance. My understanding is we don't have any liability insurance. I don't see anything in our policy about liability damage to our property or anything else. When you look at Chelmsford has one, a good one, and Tewksbury. has one.
Tewksbury has one, I know that.
Right.
That the organization is required to have?
And Chelmsford is for all events, a minimum of $1 million insurance binder, naming Chelmsford Public Schools, that's the school's insurance must be submitted. Full liability of any damages to district property or injuries to persons, whether in the district buildings or on the grounds, should be assumed by the renter.
I thought we always had one of those. I know in the past we did.
Yeah, I don't know if I've seen
Peter?
anything.
Yes, no?
I've never seen anybody turn in any 501c3 or insurance information to the board. And they can
You
turn,
know, whenever we, like, look at it with Lowell Youth Soccer, whenever we used to use the Voc, we used to have to turn the thing in that we had insurance.
yeah, the VOC
Insurance
requires,
goes through the state to cover the teams. So I would think all of, like, Little League would have the major insurance binder for all the kids. When the fee that they pay, part of that goes to an insurance, comprehensive insurance policy, liability, how it all breaks down. I don't understand all that stuff, but I know they all have to have binders to cover things, and it covers the cities and the towns, depending what people get hurt on the field or whatever.
right, but we don't even, you guys have never even required anybody turn in a 501c3 paperwork.
Okay,
So all these groups that are saying they're nonprofits, we have no backup for that.
Right.
all right.
And it's a state certification, you get it, you're 501c3.
It's federal certification.
Right. And you know, Mr. Chairman, when I ran the Acre Youth Basketball Program, we had to have a $1 million policy for the use of schools.
Oh, I know, yeah. Yeah, all right.
So we're having people using our facilities and now, and not requiring some
So
type
that's
of
one thing we
liability.
can always ask now going forward because of changes and things. We need an
Yeah, it was just a
insurance
sort of update, again,
That's-
this is for discussion, Mr.
binder. Yeah,
Chairman.
no,
got
but
a-
I
I
mean,
got a
that should be
question. I got-
something, that should be in there.
Right.
You're talking for damage to the fields and not
Just
somebody getting
total-
hurt?
Someone getting, but this Chelmsford has, I think I just read it to you, for liability for any damages to the district property or injuries to persons, whether in district buildings or on the grounds, shall be assumed by the renter.
They all know what that is, so we should be asked, to- yeah. They're
I'm gonna
all-
tell you, like in
So it's a
softball,
disclaimer taking the lead off the cut.
in softball, every team has to have insurance to be able to play in
Right.
USA
Yeah.
softball. They have to
Yeah, most
produce that.
organizations already have to
piece of
have it,
paper
but we've
before
just
every
never
tournament.
asked for
But
it,
like
that's all.
Peter said, though,
Okay.
we're not requiring that because we don't even know if, we're saying if someone's 501c3, we're not requiring to see their application, their we don't know if they have it. So they can tell us we have insurance, but you
We
gotta show
don't-
us.
we
I
don't
have
do
to, I
any
have to send it to the school department, part of my, before I get my permit.
Kiki, just because they're 501c3, we don't give them any break.
We don't and we do.
We do not.
Okay. On this board, we've given some people that.
And
maybe-
they all
maybe
say
not
they're
501, maybe that's 501c3.
501c3. It's, that's,
Okay.
you know, they all
All right.
throw that out there like it's a big thing.
Right.
It doesn't mean much of anything,
Doesn't mean, that's right.
you know? The insurance, we've never asked for it, but all youth organizations or anything, they have to have it in order to play.
Well, yep.
And we, just because we've never asked for it, or it's never come up, but if somebody got hurt bad, it would come up. Okay? That's always been there. I know that from all the years of running, you know, Lowell Youth and then Middlesex Soccer, that you have to have it.
Mr. Chairman.
Bollinger is usually a big insurance company that
I
has.
hate to go back again, but just if I may with the tournament fee, the
sure,
one
go
thing
ahead.
I'm missing and that I had down here is they charge for garbage removal. We don't. So I've seen these tournaments, and I've seen Father McGuire, because I live right across the
Yeah,
street over in that area, and they're using, like Tom has mentioned, 3 or 4 or 5 fields. And you go out there next morning or go out there Monday morning, garbage is all over. The barrels are all full. We got to.
At one point in time, you guys did charge a trash binder fee.
Right.
Back when Gunther Wellenstein was here,
Yeah.
he would come to the board meetings if there was big events like that. But that has been several years gone by. So that is something that we have done in the past. But again, I've never seen any of that paperwork. I don't know if it ever went to the solid waste and recycling
city.
team. What's that?
The city taxpayers are paying for that.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is when they used to,
Pick it up.
what I'm saying is when they used to require people to have that, nothing was ever submitted to us either.
Gil has his own dumpster down there.
Yeah, which he runs people over with.
Calabuca.
You knew that was coming up. Supposedly.
I know the city
supposedly.
used to pick it up for him, but the city forced him to get a dumpster.
Right.
Mr. Chairman, I just have one more.
And
I know
safety has to be paramount in
Yeah.
any of that stuff. Safety and cleanliness, exactly. All right, go ahead, Keith.
I think Heather really gave me a lot of homework when she gave me all these different towns and cities.
You
and towns.
asked for
I
it.
know, I appreciate it. It gives me some mind thinking.
Right.
The one thing I had that, we've had a number of debates, and I believe, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, it's only right now concerning one park, and that is the bathroom issue. I'm of opinion, and I'm one board member opinion, if we give a permit to an organization or any group that wants to use a park, and there's a facility there with a bathroom, not concession, complete different issue, concession, bathroom, that permit requester or user should be able to use the bathroom in that field at that time.
So the only thing that when you guys talk about this, you have to take into account is you're talking about for a 12-hour day for some of these youth baseball leagues, you're talking about $510 a day just for the custodian to open it and close it. And then, the leagues that are at those parks are typically the ones, some of those bathrooms, they provide their own soap and toilet paper. So then, where's that going to be? Is that going to be provided by the Parks Department now for all those leagues? So the leagues that have been providing it for years are going to be able to stop?
Well, if we're going to provide that, then we charge with it.
And then, so now you're talking about a baseball league that hasn't had to pay for permits for all these years is now going to be paying $1,000 a week just for the weekend, and if they want night bathrooms, an additional
You
fee.
want to use a nice bathroom. I've gone to my grandchildren's games up there at McPherson's. and there's a bathhouse there, and it's not open.
That's fine.
You have to go to McDonald's. What I'm saying, if the youth leaves, if we're gonna give someone a permit, you give them either the option, either you wanna pay a fee of $50, or you bring your own.
Well, it's not a fee of $50. That's the thing. The fee is 120, I think we should raise to 150 for a 4-hour custodian, right? So now you're talking about,
I'm not talking about custodian. I'm talking about, I'm an organization. You give me a permit. Let's use and then lead them talking about, we're all talking about low youth baseball, softball. They want to use McPherson's, and the bathrooms are not open, okay? Because the person that has the key that doesn't want to open it. Well, if I want to use the bathroom, then I either pay a flat fee of $50 per game, which is going to be substantial, or I take care of the bathroom myself. I got my own toiletries. I got my own toilet paper, I got this, and I'm responsible, just like in any permit we put. When you put a permit, we got that, you'll pick up all garbage and everything else in that area after your use of that field, am I right?
right, but you're talking about possibly 20 different users. Are you going to provide them each with a key?
We only have one group that's using that out there,
Well-
but it doesn't have the key.
We only have one group right now, and we have multiple groups who use the fields, who might want access to the bathrooms if it's only going to be $50. So how are we going to provide a key to all the different groups who want to use? So now you're going to talk about the schools who are going to come for field days, who might want to go to McPherson, like the Greenfield schools that walk up there. They're going to want the bathrooms open, so are they going to get a key? And then you're going to talk about some of the after-school programs that go out there, and then you're going to talk about the leagues. So don't forget, the users we have are not just all sports leagues. We have, birthday parties that go out to some of the parks that are not necessarily like Pavilion doesn't always get it, but we have other parks that get a birthday party once in a while where there's bathrooms on site, and now the person might want to use it. So how are we going to arrange the key access? Those are the things, and it's completely up to you guys how you want to do it.
Well,
But
if you want to, this is my point. If you want a bathroom, there's a bathroom available in that. If you want, we have to charge a fee for it, Peter.
no, I agree to that, but
If the schools want to put it, and they want to pay a fee, they want to use it for the field day, what are they going to do with the kid at the Robinson, or whatever, he's down there at McPherson's all day, and them kids are down there for the whole day for field day, and these kids are eating and drinking, you don't think these kids have to go to the bathroom?
Keith,
Running back up
the
hill,
Lincoln
go to
School walks kids to Avenue C for field days and don't have bathrooms. So they're already
You're telling me
doing
no
this.
kids going to the bathroom in that day.
I don't know what they're doing,
Right, we know what they're doing.
but what I'm telling you is,
Yeah.
these schools are already doing
A lot of
this.
grass.
But what I'm telling you is, providing the policy is fine, but we need to understand that we need to also find a way for it to be realistic.
Yeah.
And if the problem is getting a key, so someone has an event on Sunday, there's not going to be a custodian provided, but they can use the bathroom. Who's going to get them the bathroom key? Are they going to come in on Friday and get it, so now they're going to have bathroom access all weekend?
So you're telling me, in all respects, I mean, all kidding aside, if we've got a group, like you said, the Lincoln School using, the Avenue C using the park, you're telling me, and there's a bathroom there, that someone from the Parks Department can't go over there in the morning and open up that bathroom and then go back there at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and lock the bathroom?
On a weekday, that's one thing.
Yeah.
On a weekend, it's
We got
different.
tons of-
It's 4
But that's what I'm saying. So now you're talking, but it's a 4-hour minimum for every 4-hour block.
It's their choice. You want to use the bathroom? This is what we're charging you.
I understand. And Keith, I'm not arguing with you. I'm just want to make sure you realize that,
To say that you're giving them an option. Now there's no option.
well, the problem is some of these leagues that you're talking about have keys to bathrooms already. Lowell Youth Baseball and Softball has keys to the Pawtucket bathrooms. They have keys to, I believe they have Calorie Park, even though they don't use them anymore. They have keys to, pretty much the only one in the city they don't have keys to, as far as I know, is possibly Shed, and then
North Common.
McPherson. Do they use North Common, the Lowell Youth Baseball and Softball? I don't think so. So all those little leagues that have been using, like the PYO, that before they joined Lowell Youth Baseball and Softball, they were using their bathrooms for free. Now you're going to put a key under it, and we have a policy that they have to either pay for it for the day and have the key themselves, or they have to have a custodian there. So now you're going to be looking at charging them $750 a week for a custodian, where they've never had to pay for that before. That's what I'm saying. You're talking about McPherson Park, one park. You're talking about one park in particular that's an issue. But again, if we're going to punish these leagues that have never paid for permits, and now we're going to charge, because now what are we going to do? We're going to say, oh, Lowell Youth Baseball doesn't need to pay for these bathrooms? Again, once you start making concessions for one group, everybody else is going to say, well, he doesn't do it, why do I got to do it?
So what is the answer then? If the low youth softball is predominantly using that field 5 days a week and don't have a key to the bathroom, How is that acceptable?
Porta potties.
Woodfield,
McPherson's?
they don't use it 5 nights a week. I'll guarantee you that.
No, I've gone to my. well,
I'll
my-
bet you
all I know is I've
$100
gone
to
My
1.
granddaughter's games were twice a week, and she was in a young group age.
Right.
That was her own group. She was like the 8 to 10 group or whatever, and there were other groups playing other nights. So I don't know how many nights they were using. I just know that there was a couple nights a week that they were playing out there. All their games were at McPherson's. Every game she had was at
And
McPherson's.
every night that they're scheduled to play there, they're supposed to notify Gil, and he goes down and opens up the bathroom.
And that's what I don't
If they-
want to do. I don't have to notify someone. It's not.
But again, the problem is now we're going to give a key to another organization, and we're going to hope that the concession stand and the bathroom locks are different. Not all of them are.
For the cleanup.
Who's-
And then again,
Right, no, isn't it?
what do we have, if they use the supplies in there, what do we have, how are we going to, if we can't get people to pay for permits, how are we going to get people to provide toilet paper and soap?
Good example, the last permit we gave over to McPherson,
Right.
it was out of town, not out of city, out of town, out of state, okay? We gave him that permit over there. He shows up, they unlocked the facilities. He didn't bring any toilet paper, no towels. The gentleman that has a key there, he had to supply him with everything,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, they figure if
It's-
they're paying a permit to use the park there, all that stuff should be included.
But they, okay, the
That's an
city should,
assumption.
That's my
the
point.
city,
Mr.
the
Chairman.
city should be supplying the supplies, not the individual that built it over there.
What are you doing on the weekends, Heather? You're gonna be able to?
Well, the problem is those leagues put the fields in for their league to use.
That's correct.
That's why they provide it themselves. Now you're doing is you're opening up bathrooms that they put in, and they've been providing supplies for
Bill
years,
built that by himself.
to anybody who wants to use it. That's what creates the issues that we're running into. So I don't know how to fix it. And again, Gil shouldn't have to go down there every night of the week to have the bathrooms open.
Right.
We should have everybody that has keys to these facilities come down and discuss this with us, and let them.
And we've asked them to. You asked them to at the
I know,
Lowell
they
Youth
don't show
Baseball
up.
meeting,
I've
but.
talked to a few of them. They
And the
don't want
problem
it.
is, the only way to do it is to put locks on it that only the Parks Department has keys to, but then now you're having a custodian come down for $150 every 4 hours, so on a Saturday, you're talking about $450 every Saturday, $450 every Sunday.
But you're just gonna push business out, because they're not gonna have tournaments down there. If they have to start.
But it's not even just the tournaments, it's the leagues. Like, how can you
Leagues,
not charge the Lowell Youth Baseball and
No,
softball if
you
you're
can't.
charging Gil? And how can you not charge Gil if you're charging Lowell Youth Baseball and softball?
That's correct.
You're gonna be charging all these youth groups that have historically never had to pay for anything, significant fees for the bathrooms, or we find a way to make them play nice. And I don't know how to do that.
Gil has no problem with opening up the.
Right, but Gil shouldn't have to go down there 5 nights a week to open the bathrooms if he's not,
That's-
and now, if he
that's-
wants to, that's one thing. But again, at some point, he's not gonna wanna do that. And I don't know how we,
If we're gonna start charging the fee thing, it should be they have to supply the toilet.
right, but
paper.
again, if we're charging a fee for bathrooms, then Gil's gonna be charged when he has his tournaments out there too. And I mean, he's never had to pay for that. So again, how is that gonna go over with these leagues who've never had to pay fees for
That's what
bathrooms that
Tuckerville
they
never
put
had to
in?
pay, has,
No, but
Highlands already-
but my point is,
nobody
they're
has.
gonna have to if we install a
Right.
fee for
Yes.
bathrooms.
And I
Guys, you gotta
think-
remember one thing, we're going forward, not what happened in the past. What happened in the past
yeah, but
was
if,
done
you
and
know,
over with.
if you go forward by charging 150 for every 4 hours in an 8-hour day or 12-hour day, so that's $450 per day, that's $900 more dollars, you know, he's not gonna run the tournament, you know, this is why, the reason
We don't
why,
want them to use the fields.
this is the reason why we have so many tournaments in this area, because we're the cheapest.
We'll get rid of them.
No, you don't wanna get rid of them.
Kiki does.
What's that?
Get rid of tournaments. Get rid, just save the fields for our stuff.
No, he
We
said the
can't
high
have
school
it both
fields. He
ways.
said the high school
Any
field.
fields. You know,
I
You know,
don't know.
at the
Again,
trip-
I'm just trying to answer some concerns that people
Right.
have, and we're trying to discuss it and try to come up with some reasonable way that we could sort of make, give and take a little bit here. I don't know what the answer is, I don't have the answers, and that's why I bring them up for discussion here. But I just think it's a shame that when you have a bathroom right there, and I can't go right there, I have to go to McDonald's because, there's a dispute because who owns this building or we own the building.
But again, it's not a dispute about who owns the bathroom, it's a dispute between the two leagues. Because when Highlands goes to Highlands, they have a bathroom there that they use all the time. When Pawtuckaville plays in Pawtuckaville, they have a bathroom there they use all the time. It's only one field that's the issue, but what happens is, if we're gonna open them all up for anybody who wants to use them, you're talking, if you're gonna charge a custodial fee, that's $1,650 a week for each bathroom that they wanna use.
I said, but my basically discussion was, when I was talking about the bathroom was basically, and I was looking at permits, but I was mostly looking at tournaments, that if people wanted, people would have to pay for, you know, because if you get an all-day
Tournaments, yeah.
tournament,
Yeah.
then you gotta include the bathrooms, you have to.
But if you talk to all the other organizations around the city, they don't want to give up their keys and
course not.
let Billy Jones come in and Tom Smith.
But that's what's going to happen if we do this, is that anybody who wants to use a bathroom is going to have access to the key to the bathroom or a custodian to open it.
You know, anybody, because they've given it to somebody, and after they had their tournament.
trash it.
They trash it, they have to go in there and clean it.
Right, and they don't want them. And they shouldn't have to.
No, they shouldn't have to clean it.
I mean, they gotta clean it to some extent, but
Oh.
not the way some people leave it.
I think that's part of the reason why the city's never pushed to take ownership of these, because the maintenance and upkeep,
Too expensive.
it's not even just the cost, the manpower. I mean, there's 25 guys that work in the Parks Department now, and there's almost
By the water department.
half a dozen bathrooms at least?
Peter, the park
No.
by the water department, when we had that open, everything,
Mm-hmm.
how long did it take for people to strip the thing? Ripped everything out of it, it was awful, it was a beautiful spot,
No.
they could go
No,
and
you're
have
right, Darrell.
cookouts there.
Yeah.
It was very nice,
When
and then
I
all of a
first started on
sudden.
the city, I was on Cedar,
Right. it
and
a
I was at
mess.
the Common. That was my place, I was at the North Common in Bali, but I was there all day. So the
Right.
bathhouse was open all day
Right.
because I was assigned there all day. So we don't have that today, you're right, Peter, because of.
Yeah, Shed Park has that, and that's the only one.
Parks anymore, especially in the summertime, because that's when they used to open the bathrooms and
Right.
the fields were mostly being used when kids were out of school. So you'd be out there all day and you'd have a guy till at least 4 o'clock at night. And then some of the leads would say, hey, listen, can you spend a couple hours? I'll give you a couple bucks. So you'd stay a couple of hours, you know?
And just so you guys are aware too, the splash pads that aren't manned, they don't usually have the bathrooms open anymore either, because there was so much damage and so many issues going on in the bathrooms.
Right.
So that's the other problem, is who's gonna be responsible for what happens in that? If someone's paying $50 to get a key, and they open it for their 12-hour day, and they come back and it's destroyed, who's responsible for
You
that?
get a $2,000 bill, you only got $50, but.
That's why we have liability insurance.
And they don't wanna have to pay for it, because they're saying, we didn't do it, who else did it?
Yeah.
Once you open it up, anybody can go in there, right?
Yep.
You give people.
A quick story on the porta potties. I
Right.
had a porta potty at the Bartlett School, and I had an event going on the next day, the awards ceremony. I was in, I don't know, Chicago someplace. So my guy called me up Saturday morning, and I remember Billy Munn was the mayor. And my guy called me up, he got there at 9 o'clock in the morning, this behind the Bartlett School, dark area and everything, it was burnt. Burnt to the ground. So we were liable for it, but like, we had insurance, we took out insurance on it.
Right.
So like we were covered. So they brought up another port of emergency. So when you're talking about porta potties,
Yeah,
there's a lot of damage being
Lot
done
of
to
damage,
porta
yep.
potties when you're having them out there overnight, especially in different parks. I mean,
And once Shed Park gets their concession, are they gonna give up their keys to anybody?
You realize that we haven't even
Well,
discussed,
you're gonna get it. Huh?
so we haven't even discussed the fact that a significant amount of work is being done on fields next year with the ARPA funds. So we don't even know what that is gonna look like and how that's gonna displace users as well for next year.
yeah. So, are you talking permit-wise, Peter?
Permit-wise, I know Father McGuire is having significant work done on it. I know that Ryan Field, O'Donnell Park is having some work done on it, and they don't have a schedule.
Who has that schedule? With someone in the DPD or someone?
DPD has a schedule of what they're hoping to do, but they don't have construction dates for any of the sites yet.
Do you think there's an inquiry that we can inquire if they have something?
I keep asking.
It's for certain people are gonna come here and they're gonna ask us and we're gonna say, we don't know.
Well, my hope is to get as much information from DPD before January as we can, because, so not all the fields are getting done. They have, each counselor had one field in their part of the city they wanted work done on. So for instance, it's St. Louis Field in Centerville is going to be worked on significantly for next year, and part of the plan includes a splash pad and I believe bathrooms.
What are they gonna do at St. Louis?
They're going to redo the basketball courts, add a splash pad. They're going to redo the playground. I believe they're going to do, at one point they were talking about doing the bleachers over by Harry Allen Field and add the bathrooms in.
Are they gonna work on the field at all?
I don't know how much.
I don't think anybody uses that field anymore.
I don't know for sure if that field gets used anymore. UMass Lowell used to permit it all the time, but I don't know anymore.
I know I was in discussions with the North Common, with that group there in the acre, and I know that last year when they got awarded the money, they were going out to plan designs, they have to have that approved, and so it's a process, but you're right, a lot of the fields, that was last year, so now
All the work has to be done in 2025, and the money has to be spent by the end of
20,
August, I think.
or 26.
No, I think it has to be, I think it has to be spent out. The work has to be done next year to spend the money out over that
This
next
year,
following
you have to
winter.
have where to find where the
Gonna
money
be
is going,
encumbered
right?
and then spent.
Yeah, by 26. So, I don't know, Peter, is it possible through the board that we, through you or Heather, that we can inquire?
Well, we have to inquire anyway, because even Stacy has to do permits on fields, and we have to know which ones are being closed or not.
Once you have that, can you supply us?
Yep, once we have it, we'll supply it to you guys as soon as we have it.
Yeah, because we want people to know if they're putting a permit, it's possible that there might be some construction being on. if
Yeah,
it's-
and
if
we've
it's-
always had pretty good information to
Yeah,
that, when people,
okay.
and a lot of people understand what's going on
Right.
before.
And Shannon will have more detailed information than I'll be able to get as well.
It's been good in that respect.
Okay. We just don't want to grant permits and realize after that, you know,
We've done that, we've
Yeah,
had
fields
that,
under
we tell
construction, right.
people, everything is subject to,
especially for a tournament, no.
subject to this, subject to that.
tournaments.
All right, what else we got? I got a meeting.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
I got a meeting to be at 7, so I guess I'm late.
Anybody else have? That's all I have.
No, thank you very much, Heather.
Yep,
Peter.
so I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, I want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving and
Yes.
Merry Christmas. We'll see each other till next year, but